Hey everyone, it's Chelsea with Savannah Wren Studio, and I'm here today to talk about the hamster wheel of life and parenthood, however that looks to you. I know to me, when I think of a hamster wheel, I'm really focused mainly on that imagery of running around in place, never really getting anywhere, a lot of times tripping up and getting flung off the wheel, and usually it comes down to this idea of constantly being busy, constantly having to fight to stay upright and going in place, but never really getting anywhere. And when I am thinking about this imagery of a hamster wheel in my own life and with my own family, I'm really focusing on the idea of busyness, workaholicism, and this idea that we are always have to be in the hustle, whether it's hustling for work and hustling with the kids and hustling with the chores, uh, hustling with side uh, hobbies and creativity and exercise and doing our health, and it's just so overwhelming to constantly feel like no matter how much you spin your wheels and how much you're trying to progress and get something done, it never feels like anything actually is getting accomplished, that I'm never actually moving forward, or different areas are moving forward, whether I'm involved or not, with my kids and my husband, etc. But it's really this idea that our society in America is fundamentally created that you are expected to endlessly hustle. You are expected as a working person, as a child, as a teen, as a parent, and just generally as a individual, to constantly be busy, be in the hustle and drive of things. And it doesn't really matter what things, but you should always be busy and you should always be doing something and trying to get ahead. And here today I'm really here to tell you that as a messy yoga mom who is a business owner, a writer, an artist, a yogi, a parent, a wife, and my own person, I have seen over the last 20 so years of my life, when I allowed my workaholic tendencies and this expectation of busyness, I've seen it drive my health to the brink of collapse. I have seen it make my already messy life even messier, and I've seen those expectations that are placed on me and that I place on myself from society, leaving me feel like I'm a failure and feeling ashamed that I'm never getting everything done that I should get done. And it's that should word that's really key here. And so today, what I really wanted to focus on is one of the most important yamas. That's YAMAS, that I think is probably in many ways the most important for me and has been really helpful for my own mental health. And that is the Yama principle of non-attachment. So in yoga, there are 5 yamas and 5 niyamas. And so the yamas are basically ways to govern how you interact with the world and interact with yourself. They're ways of working to be a better person. Whereas the niyamas have to do more with the internal side of your life and your devotion to yourself, and are more of a internal healing process. And so the yama that I try to practice as much as possible in my daily life is the yama of non-attachment. And there's many different ways that we can interpret the concept of non-attachment, and it can be very specific, such as not attaching expectations or judgment or criticisms or assumptions to what's going on around us, as well as just making sure that we're, not doing damage through the attachment of expectations, assumptions to different outcomes. The best way that I can describe the idea of non-attachment is when I think of what I have to get done, or what I think I have to get done every day. So, or even every week. So for instance, and I'm just going to show it really briefly, every week and every month and usually every day, I create a list of all the things that I would like to get done each week. And I do this for my months, and I do this for my days to try to keep me on track. Now, I am kind of putting some expectations on myself. There's certain things that I would like to get done that I know I probably won't get done, but I'm also keeping in mind that these are things that I would like to get done, not things that I should get done. One of the funniest things that I've ever been told by a mental health professional is that try to avoid the word should, because you don't want to should all over yourself. That one word leads directly to shame and thoughts of you're not enough, or that you're a failure, or that you just can't get anything right, because you're attaching this expectation that you may or may not be able to actually achieve. And so when it comes to the idea of non-attachment, I try to focus on what would I like to get done, how would I like to do things, is that doable? Are these aspects that I would like to do, are they doable? Can I do them? Am I putting too much expectations on myself? Am I assuming too much about the people around me, or about my own energy levels? And so it's this idea of just really redirecting and refocusing your thoughts, and then by by extension, your emotions and your core beliefs about yourself. And when it comes to being a parent, especially being a mom, I feel that there is a lot of expectations that we moms have for ourselves, but also there's a lot of expectations that are put onto us by society. A lot of moms are expected to be a mom and take care of the house and do all of the emotional labor and all of the cooking and most of the cleaning and all of the shopping and remembering all those birthdays and getting all the gifts and making sure that the kids are clean and fed and dressed nice, and maybe extending that further to your spouse. And that's just in the confines of your little unit as people are looking in or you're looking out. And on top of that, parents today are expected, a lot of them are expected to both be working, or at the very least one of them is expected to do the bulk of the financial work while the other one stays home and takes care of the house. And there's a lot of expectations and assumptions that are wrapped up into those qualities that society is putting on us as parents. Now, you can, of course, extend this out to the individual level. So, say you have a partner and you don't have kids and you don't want kids, there's still different expectations placed upon you by society and by yourself and by your spouse. If you're single, there's a whole range of more expectations that are put upon you. And so it's this constant you pushing back against society that's pushing expectations upon you, or at the very least, feelings of expectations, whether they are really there or not. And the one thing that I really learned from becoming a yogi, even if I'm one of the messiest yogis out there, is that I can't put, and I won't put, attachments, judgments, and expectations on myself when I'm doing things, especially when I'm doing yoga, especially when I'm working with other people, and especially when I'm working with my children. And I say that because I lived, almost 6, 7 years where I was overwhelmed by the expectations that I felt pressure from for myself, and I felt pressure for my children. I can't tell you how many times I have had someone, walk up to me at the park or at a store and comment about how my children are dressed. That they aren't dressed in pretty pink girly outfits, and half the time their hair isn't brushed or doesn't look like it's brushed because they have really fine hair and it tends to knot with a wafting little breeze that comes by. Or, people commenting about how loud and boisterous my children are. And, I used to take that really to heart and feel really bad that I was a horrible mom because my children weren't perfect little angels, and they weren't quiet, and they, weren't utterly submissive to what I asked them to do. And, I honestly never expected my children to be that way because I'm not really that way. But there's this expectation from other people that my children aren't what children should be. And it took a long time for me to let go of that and brush it off my shoulders and out of my life. And that's just one example. There's expectations on us as parents for our health and how we look and how we dress and how we behave with other people and with each other. And so society is not good at non-attachment. And so us as individuals, especially if you enjoy yoga, it's one of the most important tenets of yoga that you can take with you both on and off the mat. And I find that it is also one of the most important tenets of yoga that can help reduce suffering within our own lives and the lives of others. Because if we're not attaching judgment or expectations or assumptions to ourselves or to other people, then we can be more present and more open to the world around us and how we're moving through the world. And when it comes to just living in society in general, it feels a lot like not only are we on a hamster wheel running around in place, but we are also at times in a rat race, and we're trying our hardest to survive in our environment that is very often not very conducive to our survival, which is incredibly upsetting as someone who adheres to not only neo-pagan philosophies, but who is also very attuned with the principles of yoga and Buddhism. Seeing so much suffering and the rat race of capitalism and how much it hurts people and hurts my family and hurts myself is one of the heaviest loads that I bear as an empath. And so it's one of those things that how do we work to push back against that hamster wheel of life and society? How do we push back against the idea of the rat race? How do we work on slowing down, enjoying life, enjoying being here, being in the present, especially if we're parents? I want to tell you that it doesn't come easy. It's a constant moment of mindfulness where I can tell you for a fact I am still never completely off that hamster wheel. But I have found ways to work on slowing my hamster wheel down so that I can take time to hop off and explore and be present and not be so focused on either the wheel or the race. One of the first things that I do is I do yoga and I do meditation. Now, of course, that's easier said than done for a lot of us, especially if we're parents. But, 5 minutes of yoga is way better for me than no yoga. 5 minutes or even 30 seconds of meditation is way better for my mental health and my physical health than no meditation at all. And so when it comes to non-attachment and getting slowing down that hamster wheel, I really like to look toward what Buddhism calls the middling way or the middling path. It's this idea of moderation, compromise, finding something between the extremes. Most of our lives is spent way on one side of the pendulum where we're living in survival mode, we're just trying to get stuff done, we're doing a million things at once, and we're going until we crash and we swing all the way over to the other side of the pendulum, and we're still living in survival mode, but now we are depressed, we're anxious, we're dissociating, we're sleeping tons, and we're just shutting down because we have overexerted ourselves to the point of collapse. And so, if we can find a middle ground and just slowly swing back and forth rather than giant pendulums, it's better for us and it's better for the people around us. And when you're in that middle ground, you have more flexibility and more choice and empowerment for what you're doing and where your attention is going. So, the first thing I said was mindfulness, being aware. Are you going 90 miles an hour? Are you going 0 miles an hour? Are you somewhere in between? That is absolutely essential. But then also just reevaluating what the idea of busyness and hustle means to you. Are you busy because you have a ton of things that you have to do? Or are you expecting that you get a ton of things done? Do they have to all get done today? Can they be moved so you have some tomorrow or some next day? And it's that idea of just looking at work as through the lens of moderation, just like nutritionists say, don't deprive yourself or overexert yourself and binge, that sort of thing when it comes to food and drinks and alcohol and things like that. It's okay to have a little bit. It's not okay to cut yourself off completely or binge until you are suffering in a different capacity. So when it comes to work myself as a stay-at-home parent that's running her own business out of her house currently, I try to set a visual timer so that I can focus for a little bit, but then I give myself a break, and then I'll focus for a little bit more, and then I'll give myself a break. And I do that throughout the day. That way I'm not constantly trying to hold my focus from 8 a.m. until 7 o'clock at night, or however the schedule ends up going. And those little breaks allow me to reset so that I can say, I can put this down for now, I can go switch focus and go for a walk, or I can do a couple of yoga poses next to my desk. I can go clean the kitchen that I've been meaning to clean, and I can come back later because I'm focused on that pattern of giving myself time to reset. And you can easily do this even if you have an office job where, you set your alarm on your phone for 15, 20, 30 minutes, and then you give yourself a little bit of a break, and you can walk around the office, or you can walk down the stairs, take your break, and just allow yourself to reset. That's a good way to slow that hamster wheel down. Another good way is to lean into hobbies and things that give you pleasure and that allow you to engage your creativity and your idea of play. Now, it doesn't have to be something as specific as I'm going to set aside one day a week for a 4-hour board game session, or I'm going to watch a movie just for me every single night. You can evaluate and determine what play means to you. For me, I don't. Yoga is play for me. I enjoy doing yoga as a way to shift my focus and as a creative outlet. But photography is also that way, and I enjoy hiking and walking and swimming and writing in general, and painting. I've recently took up painting. And so you can decide if those are fun for you or what is fun for you. It doesn't have to be something that takes a lot of money, or it's more about just giving yourself the opportunity to infuse a little bit of creativity in what you're doing. A little bit of creativity, a little bit of play goes a long way to slowing down that hamster wheel and allowing you to get off the ride. The final thing that I would say is really important for slowing the busyness of life, especially if you're a parent, is just making sure that you are taking time for yourself, where you're not focused on work, you're not focused on chores, you're not focused on appointments or tasks that are on your to-do list. You are taking the time to be there for yourself, whether that's showing up for yourself with your health, showing up for yourself with more traditional notions of self-care, taking showers, making sure that you some people think that makeup is part of their self-care regimen. Having silence, a little bit of quiet time, being able to sit outside for a little bit, spending time reading, whatever you need to refill your energy cup at the end of the day. I know it's a cliche, but a lot of times cliches are there because they are true, or at least have a hint of truth within them. You can't pour from an empty cup. You have to use self-care techniques to refill your cup every single day. It's not I'm going to refill my cup once a week, once a month, once a year. It has to be an everyday thing. A little bit of self-care goes a long way. And it doesn't have to be a super formal thing where you literally put in your phone self-care time. It can be. If that works for you, that's fantastic. It doesn't work for me. So when I need self-care, I try to find little moments here or there multiple times throughout the day that I can do something for myself. I like to get outside, whether it's just opening the door for a second to get some sunshine and fresh air, or it's actually going outside and being active. I like to read for myself when not reading for research, which I sure as heck do a heck of a lot if you've ever seen some of my other posts about how much I read. But I try to set aside a little bit of time every day that I can read that isn't for work or something else. It is just for me to unwind. I listen to music throughout the day, and occasionally I have little dance parties. I'll be standing at my computer listening to Scooter or Tiesto or Avicii, and I will just stop typing or editing or whatever I'm doing, and I'll just start dancing at my computer. And I love doing that. It's spontaneous, it's fun, and it gives me a quick little breath of fresh air before I turn back to what I'm doing. So, I encourage you to, come up with self-care ideas that work for you, that align with what you need in your daily life, and that fit within your schedule. And one person's self-care may not be someone else's self-care. You might think, well, Chelsea's self-care regimen seems, too much or not enough. What I really need is ... And that's absolutely valid. Take what you need from what I'm discussing and then leave the rest at the door. If it resonates to you, that's fantastic. And I'm so absolutely happy for you. If it doesn't resonate with you, no worries, not a big deal. It's all about your journey and your experience in this life. And if we can find and discuss different tools for you, it makes everything worth it. The more tools that we have in our arsenal, in our toolbox, the better off we can be as we move through life. The last thing that I want to talk about really quick is that we are, we are in the middle of Pisces season, so there's a lot of deep emotions, this feel of flow that we kind of want to just move with. And there's also this intention and theme in many of our lives right now of looking at some of the deeper issues that are going on within our lives and within society. I am all for looking at the large connotations for the year and how that affects what we're doing. And I highly recommend and encourage you to just kind of sit with the the wateriness, the changeability of the Pisces season and see where it takes you, whether that means doing a Pisces energy meditation or maybe doing some Pisces yoga, which I absolutely love. That's one of my favorite astro yoga sequences that I do. Or, just see what comes up when you add a little bit of flow into your life. The sign of Pisces is the sign of the fish, or technically two fish. And, when you look at the imagery and mythology of Pisces, it's really about, going with the flow. And feeling the emotions and the larger emotions within society, that empathic nature of Pisces. And we are still going to be in Pisces season for another little over 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. So, this is a great time to get in touch with your inner Pisces. We all have a little bit of inner Pisces within our charts, but it's also a great time to spend a little bit of time and energy being a little bit closer to water and connecting with the element of water in any shape or form. Today is the last day of the full moon in February, and it's actually the Virgo full moon, because Virgo is directly across from Pisces. And so I have, this card right here, and it says, for the full moon in Virgo, you are good enough. A lot of times, Virgo energy can be, when it comes to its shadow energy, it can be a little bit critical, a little bit judgy, a little bit anxious and high-strung, because they want to do better, they want to be of service, and they want to make sure that they are good at serving others. And so for yesterday and today's full moon in Virgo, focusing on some of the more positive Virgo traits can be very beneficial, whether it is organizing, taking the time to, really organize some aspect of your life, whether it is, getting prepared for next week, organizing your office, or your desk, your clothes for tomorrow, laying things out. That's always a good option. But you can also spend time, thinking about being how you can serve others, or how you could serve yourself today. And so that's just a little bit of kind of the astrological energy that we are experiencing today. Tomorrow, it'll be completely different. But for today, we're still in that Virgo moon energy, and I highly recommend, finding a little bit of grounding to help with that mutable earth and that mutable water energy that we are coming up to today. Before I sign off today, I want to open the comments up for any questions or comments that you might have. I want to make sure that this workshop is a two-way street. I really would love to hear your thoughts about the conversation that we've been having today. How does the busyness of society affect you? How does it affect your family, your home life, your work life? What what is one thing that you could do today to slow down your personal hamster wheel of busyness? Feel free to drop in the comments something that you know that you could do today to take a moment to slow down and maybe get off the busyness wheel. I know this evening I'm going to take a little bit of time for myself to go on a walk around our cul-de-sac just to get a little bit more fresh air. I'm really loving the spring weather that we've been having this past week, and so I want to soak it up as much as possible. And next, on March 14th, I'll be back again with my third installment of Red Moon Women's Circle, and we will be focusing on discussing our whole health, or your whole health. And so we'll look at different things that go into our health that a lot of times we compartmentalize, but in reality, our health is more like a connected web of activities that work to create our whole self. The next the next Messy Yoga Mom will be on March 28th. Let me just double check that. Yep, March 28th at 3 p.m. And we will be looking at how parenthood can sometimes create emotions that we would view as negative. And so how do we work through and face and accept emotions in our lives that might make us feel unsafe or insecure? So I hope you join me again in a couple of weeks. Feel free to follow me on social media. My Instagram is Savannah Wren Studio, and then my business page on Facebook is Savannah Wren Studio. And then if you like, feel free to join my private Facebook group, which is Savannah Wren Kula. And then I also do have a YouTube account for Savannah Wren Studio, and I like to post different workshops there, including this one will get uploaded, but I also do yoga classes and other mini videos on subjects that are important to me as an individual, not just as a yogi. And if you find that you enjoy my content and that you resonate with it deeply and that you find it helpful, consider joining my Patreon community under Savannah Wren Studio. My Patreon community starts at $3 a month, and for that you get access to in-person specialty workshops, workbook activities, live streams, and other fun and entertaining content. I'm going to be starting free tarot readings on Mondays for my Patreon community. And so I'm really excited for that because tarot and oracle cards are one of my favorite things in life. And I can't wait to share not only my passion for that, but also my love of using tarots and oracle decks as a springboard for setting intentions for your week. So until next time, I want to close with my favorite mantra. The light and the darkness within me recognizes and honors the light and the darkness within you. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. Thank you so much for joining me for this Messy Yoga Mom workshop today. And I hope to see you next time. Have a great rest of your week.